up.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is David Mirikitani with another episode of Mat Chat, brought to you by USA Wrestling, the national governing body for wrestling in the United States, and by Nike Wrestling. Go to athleteps.com for all of your Nike and USA Wrestling branded gear. Today, I am joined by the most recent person I had lunch with, your 65-kilogram Final Xer from various RTCs, currently at Ohio State, Evan Henderson. Evan, thanks for jumping on with me, man.
Yeah, no problem. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. So I should explain to people that I unintentionally stole your seat at the Iowa Athletic Club.
Yeah.
And it turned into a 45-minute conversation with you and Ty,
Yep.
which was a lot of fun. And it's always good to talk to guys when they're in good moods. And you'd had a great tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I never talked to you before. So you're really an interesting guy. And I thought, obviously, you had a good tournament. People want to hear the stories. So I'll kind of work backwards. We'll talk about the tournament first.
Okay.
So I know USA Wrestling, the formula that they use, like the US Open champs, the number one. Let's just start out with, did you think it was right, wrong, indifferent, or odd that you were the 8th seed?
In my opinion, based off of how I did at the Open and given that I forfeited out, I was like, you know what? I don't have a say in that anymore because I didn't wrestle out throughout the tournament. I didn't finish the tournament. I got a little banged up. I got hurt. And so it was just like, you know what? I'm not going to, it's not like, what else can I do anyway? Wherever I am, I am,
Sure.
Same way if you would be thrown into a world bracket, a world championship bracket, and you get thrown anywhere anyway. You might have the world champion right away or not. They only seed so many people. So I'm like, it is what it is. And, take it for what it is and get the job done.
Yeah. So, I mean, your path was you had Lugo in the prelims, and then Maple, and then Lee. And then eventually, since this is a non-Olympic medaled weight, they don't wrestle the final because a lot of people, it is confusing even for guys like myself that are covering this every week. So the weights where we had a returning medalist, they wrestled to a champion. The weights where we didn't have a returning medalist, they wrestled to the finals. Yeah. And so you made it to the finals. If you or Yanni had been or if somebody else had been a returning medalist, you and Yanni would have wrestled to wrestle that person.
Yes.
But since there isn't, you guys are set for Final X.
Yep.
So I mean, that's a tough path, man. You go through Lugo, who is, the number one seed of senior year.
Yeah, arguably a national champ that year,
Yeah, you go through Maple, who's a national champ. You go through and the most recent U.S. Open champ, and has coach strength and old guy strength.
Yeah. Well, he's not that much older than me,
Yeah. How far apart are you guys?
Well, so I want to say he might have graduated a year or two ahead of me.
Okay.
So we might only be like 2 or 3 years. I'm going to say he might be two. I think he's the same age as Logan, right? And Logan's only about a year and a half older than me.
Gotcha.
Logan Stever.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And then Nick Lee, who's obviously younger than all you guys and coming off pretty dominant season, a pretty dominant career. So
what is he? How many did he win?
I think 2, plus he lost a COVID year.
Yeah. Is he going back for another year?
I don't think he is.
Okay.
So I think that whole lineup up there, they kind of got those guys staggered out the way they want them. And, he's good in that. We should talk about this too, that this is an Olympic weight, where you do not have to adjust, so, but let's get to that. But let's get to the tournament. So the Maple match was, well, I guess we'll start with Lugo. I mean, just kind of walk me through the tournament, just how it felt. And,
So going in, it's like, so whenever the seeds came out and I was 8th, he was the 9th. I'm like, okay, well, I got this guy. And that was a matchup that I had last year at the Last Chance qualifier. And that was the finals match. And I tell you what, he was kicking my butt. He was kicking my butt that match. And not this one, but the one at the Last Chance. And I remember he forwarded me. I was down 4, and then he took me down and turned me, and I was down 8, but then I reversed him right to his back. And then I got a turn, and then I got to a half and a navy, and I ran him over and pinned him. But I'll
My
tell
God,
you what, though, it's like I wasn't it wasn't a dominant for it's like I didn't feel good about it, you know? I
it was
was obviously
uncomfortable.
it was uncomfortable. I was super happy I won, you know? And those are the ones like that I really, really get excited for. You see the raw emotion on my face. It's like, um, you know, I got it done somehow, some way, you know, I pulled it out. And so I wasn't necessarily comfortable going into this matchup with him because he is kind of a tough matchup. He's a squeezer, and I like people that come after me a little bit and open up. And that wasn't, I mean, you know, he's not like that.
He's
Uh,
controlled.
he's
Yeah,
control. He's stingy. He hangs on the head, and um, but just slowly getting through the match, he's gonna break down, and he shot in, I sat the corner, got on top of him, got 2, and I'm like, "Okay." My confidence went through the roof on that one after that one, you know, I was like, "Okay, I can do this. I can do this." Like, he was the one guy that I'm like, you know, there's always this one guy that you're like, you don't wanna wrestle, like, there or, "Oh, I gotta have to wrestle this guy." Like, back in the day, I think it was or a couple years ago, it was Chris Dardanes. Dardanes is just a meatball, like, just I don't even know how he's just tough. You don't
those
wanna
the kitchen sink of guys for
what
sure. Just
yeah,
those, just yeah, just he wants to beat you up and make it a fist fight, which sometimes isn't comfortable, right?
yeah, and so but once I got through that match, that was really the one that, like, kinda put me in this mindset. It's like, "I can do this. This is gonna Imma be okay. Imma do this. Regardless what happens during the match, I can you know, I'll figure it out, and I'll get it done." And then going on to the Maple match, that's kinda what happened. So, sorry, my mom actually just got home, and we have a little dog.
That's okay.
Yeah, so
So, I mean, I thought I know Kendrick, right? Like I'm in St. Louis, they're in Columbia. I had him and Dom on a couple weeks ago, and
mhm,
the brackets come out or the seeds come out. If you're a dork like me, and B, you're supposed to talk about this semi-intelligently, you're immediately sort of putting brackets together in your
mhm,
head, and one wrestles the winner of 8-9 if you've been in this sport more than 10 minutes.
yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's not a good draw for Maple. He gets the winner of Henderson Lugo. Like, that's not a wonderful draw as the one seed, like
Yeah, especially I think with the matchup that even me and him with me and Lugo were both be a, bad matchup for him, in my opinion. You know, I don't know how that one went with him and Lugo at, the Open, but
it was real close.
yeah,
Real close. It was
that's
like
what I mean. It's like
2-2. Yeah, it was 2-2, and he was winning on criteria. And then I think he got a takedown late, but it's like you said, it wasn't a blowout match at all.
no. So,
Yeah. So I mean, so I'm doing interviews during your your semifinal round, which was essentially your final, at
mhm,
that tournament,
yeah,
because if you
yeah,
make the finals, you're done. And so you see bits and pieces of the match. I go, you got taken down, then you got firemen's. It was
yeah.
6-0. I come back and you won like 12-11 or 13-12. So I went back and watched the match, so I know what happened.
Mhm.
I'm not that lazy, but like, tell me about your mindset, because I mean, 6-0 is not awesome, not an ideal way to start a match, right?
There's been plenty of matches I've been down 8-0, 9-0 and then come back and win, but, uh, it's just like as long as I'm still standing, I'm still able to, you know, get after it and get it done, and just start chipping away 1 point at a time. That's the thing. Um, I think he got the fireman's, and then I think he went in for a trap arm, and I'm like, "Okay, like, he's gonna probably take me, and if I let him get a good turn, he's gonna turn me again, probably pretty easy." So, when he went and I knew he was gonna go, I shifted my hips and I caught his leg and I held him, and then so I got 2 out of that, so it was like 8-2, then he somehow weaseled away and then got me into a crucifix where my arms were jacked behind my back, and, um, and then I flipped back over top of him and then ended up being, 10-3, then I laced him 10-5, and then it was 10-5. So I'm like, okay, I'm still in the match. I'm only down 5. It's a big deal, you know. It's like not a big deal. It's like that's one takedown and 2 turns away from being on top, you know, and winning. Um, and yeah, I was hurting after that though. I was hurting after that crucifix. Or like if you go back and watch, my arms were rough.
It looked painful, but,
Yeah,
like, I mean, I was pretty good back in the day, but that day was a long time ago and not as good as you. So, like, it's like, you don't wanna make a lot of speculation.
yeah,
There's a couple things that you said in there that I think are interesting. Everybody is always talking about mindset, and I think that word kinda gets used too much. I'd rather talk to you about your approach because we talked about this just candidly at the bar.
mhm,
Like, I was just asking you some of these same questions, like, and to be fair, I shouldn't say the bar. It's a sports place that you were eating lunch, so I don't want
yeah.
people to think the wrong thing. But,
No, I'm a blue collar guy. You can think they can think whatever they want. It's
all
like
right, fair
I'm
enough.
just like everybody else. Don't worry.
Okay, all right, fair enough. So, but your approach, and part of it's a freestyle folk style approach. Like I tell people all the time, like 6-0 in folk style and 6-0 in freestyle are really different because you can get back into it really quick because it's not like take down 2, give them back 1. It's just 2, 2, 2, and you're back in it.
Mhm.
And you're also only 4 points away from that tech on the other side of it,
Yeah.
where it's a million miles to get to 15. But you said it's not a big deal. That's literally what you just said like 2 minutes ago. And no, I love that because we have a lot of coaches and a lot of young athletes that watch the pod, excuse me, and I they get down. Like, if I'm wrestling you and I get down a takedown in 2 turns, I'm like, "Oh, man, now I'm out of it." And your approach is the opposite of that. And you were talking about that, like, as long as I still got some bullets left in the chamber, so to speak, I'm gonna keep firing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where does that come from? Like, and how were you taught that? How, if you were coaching, how would you get guys to just, I don't know, stay optimistic for lack of a better phrase?
Um, like, and I was actually really thinking about this because I had Evan Wick actually reached out to me and 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 he's like, what's something that has changed? Is there anything that's changed between now, like from when I graduated? Because I was a 2-time All American. I really didn't go. I was like going into my senior year, I was ranked number 1 and ended up going up to 49 and not even placing, went to 2 out nationals. And he was asking me like, what changed? What changed from you? It's like, and it's doesn't change overnight, but it's literally like the heart and will. It's like I don't want to give up. It's like my mom didn't raise no like mama didn't raise no pitch kind of thing. It's like regardless of the 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 points on the board, it's like I want to like you just gotta be tough, you know. It's like I'm not gonna lay down. I'm not gonna lay down. And um I mean, imagine a fight for your life. It's like, are you gonna sit there and get beat up? No, you're gonna fight. You're gonna have to really dig down deep and pull out whatever you got left and fight. Period. Um, like, because I'm not getting. It's like I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna like just lay down and die. I'm gonna get up and fight. I'd rather be carried back on my shield than than like die in a ditch somewhere.
Yeah,
So
I mean, and it's those things, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure you either coach or have coached like younger kids, and you'd rather them, if you're coaching me and I was younger than you, and it's 5-3 with 20 seconds left, you'd rather see me lose 7-3 trying something than just
yes,
hang out
absolutely,
and lose.
absolutely.
You're like, well, David, why'd you just hold position? Like, well, I wanted to lose by 2. You're like,
That's what I don't like to see. It's like I remember no so actually at the open after on the final day I was in the corner with Mendez and Mendez was down by 2 or 3 points from against the kid from ASU club and
oh,
um
Kramer.
Kramer, yeah,
Yeah.
Kramer. And I just remember it's like, hey, you gotta go if you're gonna it's like if there was a break in the action. I'm like, hey, this is you now. You have to go now. Like you gotta start going. No holds barred, go because if you don't, you ain't gonna get another chance. There's only 30 seconds left. This is the time to do it. And like he could have easily since he's a high school kid, he could have easily just lost that match and nobody would have said anything to him, you know, because it's like, okay, yeah, he's pretty good. He'll get there. He'll get there.
He
Versus
has a
he came
built-in
in,
excuse.
yeah, built-in excuse, and he didn't use it, and he went. And it's like, I mean, you could say the same thing. I'm getting old. I'm over the hill, blah blah. And it's like I haven't done it, so they're like, ah, he's out of it, kind of thing. And no, screw that. Don't make excuses for yourself. Just if you're gonna go down guns blazing. You know.
You know what's interesting is like I think everybody sort of conceptually knows this stuff, right? Like don't give up. It's better to lose by more than less at the end.
Mhm,
You know, like as a coach, if I'm older than you, so like if I was your coach, like look, I'd rather see you lose 20 to 10 than 10 to nothing because at least there were some good things and there were some flurries and there's more
mhm,
film to watch. You know, all these different. I mean, you can tell how old I am. I said film, but you know, but there's all these things and everybody sort of knows that, but there's not a lot of people that do it consistently. Like you see a lot of people that at the end they don't flurry, they don't find a way, and you know, like I was lucky enough to call the World Championships one year, and like I watched like Sidakov get it done against Burroughs late, and
mhm.
I'm like, man, that dude had to just his mind's got to be at a different level, you know, to get that.
And one thing I think it happens in your training too. Like, and it also it's like it happens in your training, and it also happens in matches. Like, there's some like when you get one of them, you can go back and watch where you go back to 17 and watch me against Kellen Russell. I'm down 8-0 and I end up coming back like 14-12. And you can see in that match where he dies and I rise. And it's just like kind of just keep moving forward. And that just, that's the kind of thing. It's like, okay, I've done this before. I've been in these situations before and I know I can do it. And I've done it. Okay, another time would be me versus McKenna at Bill Farrell in whatever year it was. And I'm down 8-0 and I ended up coming back and beating them, 15-13 or something like that, which something crazy. Um, and so it's like you have these matches where it's like, I've done this before. I've been in a situation. And one thing that, like, it's one thing to experience and have done it. And then if you haven't done it, well, you've watched me do it. If I'm coaching somebody, well, I've watched that's what Kerry Collette said to me when I was just like, hey, I remember him talking to me about it. I remember seeing the documentary about it. It's like, oh, I've been down before. I can do this. I've seen guys down. I can do this. If he can do it, I can do it, kind of thing. And so that's where you put yourself back into that mindset where it's like, I'm just as good as that guy. I can do this, so it's not it, it and you're asking me how does a coach like train his like athletes to do something like that? It's hard to put them in that position. And it's a difficult I'm not there's no easy answer for that. I just think
Sure.
that if they do get into a dogfight of a match, and they pull it out, that's something that they'll take with them. That's something that adds to their character. And it's like, I've done it before, I can do it again. Um,
I think sometimes people get too logical, right? Like I think to believe you can be the best in the state, the best in the country, the best in the world is theoretically a pretty illogical belief, right? Like of all the people in the world that weigh 143 pounds, I'm going to be the best at this, right? Like if you just say that out loud, it's kind of crazy, but
mhm.
it's what you have to be somewhat illogical to make that happen. Like I
Yeah.
remember I'm friends with Kevin Jackson. I'm so old. I went to college with Kevin Jackson's younger brother when
Oh, wow.
Kevin was there at Iowa State, and we were roommates. So I would see KJ a lot that year. And I had him on the podcast, and I said to him, I go, Kevin, how did you go from being an NCAA runner up to being a world and Olympic champion? I mean, like, that's not a logical jump, right? Like,
Yeah.
and he just looked at me like I was crazy, like, well, why wouldn't I? You know, like it just, which I loved. It was like, instead of, I didn't ask the dumb question, or he didn't ask, he asked me, that's a dumb question, not the other way around, like, you should just expect yourself to keep getting better and passing people up.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably super fundamental to all of you guys that are achieving at this level because you've all lost matches to people that you eventually have to beat. And
Yeah.
you've also beaten people that think they can come back and beat you.
Yeah.
And most of you guys are a scramble or 2 apart, honestly. It's not like most of you guys are out there 10-0 and, people in 30 seconds.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think you get to a certain level and everything gets kinda tight, you know? So and I'm not even gonna say that, "Oh, this little decision that you made last week or this or that has anything to do with." It's literally I think it's like any given match, you know? Um, like, so that's literally it's any given match. It can
yeah,
happen for you. And there might be something that clicks in your head that match or some instinct takes over and bam, you done it. You know, you got it done. You got the job done somehow. And but that will stick with you though. I think like that little instinct you go back, you watch it and you figure out exactly what happened and you go back into your mind and try to retrace your steps and uh figure out exactly what you thought at that particular moment, and then you try to replicate it, and then you keep doing that. Um, and then you bring it to practice, you bring it to this and that, blah, blah, blah. I think I don't know if we were discussing the one time, like I was at Bill Farrell and I headlocked the French dude. Never hit that before in my life, right? That move. Never practiced it, never did anything.
yeah. We
And
talked
in
about this
fact,
at lunch. Yeah,
I can tell you that I got that hit on me in practice. And I think it just had an influential enough, part of me that I was like his head popped up and I'm like, "It's right there, I'm gonna do it." Bam, hit him. Hit him with a headlock. Like, he shot a single, I pulled him up or he popped up because he wanted to come up and I hit him in a headlock and squeezed his almost popped his head off, I thought. Um, and but, like, things like that, that's where, you gotta kinda have that somehow, some way, you never have to practice everything that you do, but, like, you gotta figure out exactly what you did in your matches, and then you can replicate it and then move forward with that. Because after that, I started doing that in practice. I started finding it for some reason, and then because I was looking for it.
well, probably because it worked too, and in a big
Yeah,
moment and looked
yeah,
cool and everything else.
yeah,
I think the why you wanted to do it again is fairly simple.
yeah,
How you did it the first time is a little more complex. I think a lot of wrestlers are really sort of uh they're learners.
yeah,
Like my dad's really good at just looking across the room and saying, "Evan, move your hand up 3 inches." But like most of us are
mhm,
like, "All right, hey, put me in that." And I'm like, "Man, move your hand up a couple inches." And like, oh, okay, now there's the pressure's right, kind of thing.
yeah,
And like you said, if you see somebody do it, it's not the same as if somebody does it on you,
yeah.
and then you're like, "Ooh, that was dirty." Like I need to, like either show that to me or it gets stored in the memory banks.
Yeah, and then so I mean, and that's what I think I think I do that well, and I know I'm not the best at it. I know there's like I remember going like when I was in New York City with Kendall Cross, he'd look at something and then pick it up like that. Like he could do it within watching it within a minute, he was doing it versus I was trying it and I'm like, ah, I'm still messing up, still messing up. But then the other thing it would be like I wouldn't touch that move for 6 months and then I come back and end up doing it, just like things like that happen. Like and I
Yeah.
think it happens because we're in this world that is just like you're doing a bunch of like you're always in it. You never necessarily do every single move, but your body's still being trained like that. You're still training your mind like that, and eventually, you never know when it's going to come out in a match. And that's for me anyway. I don't know if that's for
No,
everybody. That's for me.
I've had Kendall on a couple times, and one of the things I asked him, I still remember this because his answer was like so cool. I was like, "What happens when you're coaching guys and like they feel like they're getting worse?" Which a lot of times is part of the process, right? Like if you have to relearn a position,
Hmm.
you're going to actually be less effective for a while. He goes like, "Man, you just got to explain to him like sometimes you're just gathering and you're gathering, and then it'll just come together." But like the voice and it was like so chill.
He's such a great storyteller too. Holy crap, he's awesome. But like, yes, exactly. And I tell that like I take a lot of stuff because I was with him for 2 years. I take a lot of stuff from him too. And he's like, yeah, and like I'm using my hands here, but it's like you have
Yeah,
all this stuff that starts moving away from you. And I tell it to the guys I work with now. It's like you already know enough. This is why, and I got this from Colette too. You already know enough to win a national championship. You already know enough to win a world title. It's literally just pulling all that information that you already know in harness and pull it back into your center and make it work, you know?
I love that. Yeah.
So it's like, and so for your high school guys going into college, especially D1 room, you probably already have enough information stored in your mind to win a national title. And then it becomes a matter of a little bit of the physicality, a little bit of mental preparation, and like just and some good luck, you know, and that's what it takes. So
Yeah, I wish I had looked at it that way because like my dad is like a super technique guy. And so you always think like I gotta learn more and I gotta learn more. And I now that I look at it, I'm like, I knew what I was doing. I just didn't believe that I knew what I was doing. And I just needed to get stronger and I just needed to be tougher in the fight. And the days that I lost, like I'm one day closer to, I'm one day closer to being the windshield and not the bug, so to speak,
yeah.
like just pushing through. So um when you and I were talking at lunch, you mentioned you've been in several RTCs, and I don't want to walk you through all of them, but you know, the New York City RTC, I guess is the technical name of that one. And
Hmm.
then the other one that is certainly relevant to what's going on soon in your life is you were in Cornell for
Hmm.
a while, right?
Yeah.
So how long were you there? Who all was there training and who was the coach at the time?
So at Cornell, so what was it? It was when was that? Like right at the beginning of COVID. Like everybody from New York City RTC kind of got like they kind of put everything on pause, and then I got a call, hey, we're gonna have to let you go, and I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
So, uh, and I understood that decision and everything like that, but that was hard, and then literally didn't know if I was gonna keep wrestling because I was trying to find another RTC and nobody was hiring. Nobody was picking up anybody because of the situation. Because we didn't know how bad it was gonna be at that time. But later on was like the day I moved out in New York City, I called Rob Cole, who was a UNC alumni. And like he knew me, knew I wrestled tough and everything like that. And he's like, well, I at least got a place for you to stay up here if you want to come up and train. And sure enough, I came up, trained with Yanni, trained with Dave, trained with Vito, and all those guys were great. I could go rattle off all of them, like Julian, Colton, blah blah blah, go through the list.
Saunders was there too, right? Because
Saunders was there too. I like working with Saunders too. I
yeah,
was really happy that he made it to trials. Um,
and won a
'Cause that's a
match
good guy. Yeah, what?
and won one match.
Yeah, yeah. Who'd
Yeah.
he beat?
He beat Carter Young on the back, like got a
Okay.
takedown with like 3 seconds left. So people that don't know, that's Josh Saunders, St. Louis kid, guy that I got to corner for a while.
Yeah,
That is now at Cornell. Got injured this season, still has 3 years of eligibility left. Shout out to Josh and to his dad, who I love, who's
yeah.
like the craziest Christian I know, Nolan.
Oh,
So,
yeah, he's awesome, but,
yeah.
like, I it was good up there. I really liked it. It and me and Yanni, we battled up there. It was great, I think yeah, when I came in, I think it was, Yanni was coming off of something off his knee, and he was getting back in the room, so he's just getting back into it, but, like, I think he really liked wrestling with me because it was like I was tough. I wasn't gonna lay down for him. So I feel like some guys, oh Yanni, he's won a national title already and stuff like that. It's like I don't care. It's like I go into any room. It's like I walked in the rooms in Dagestan and stuff, and I'm looking over. It's like, yeah, let me wrestle the world champion. If he kicks the crap out of me, he kicks that crap out of me. But like I'm gonna go and I'm gonna at least give him the business.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was good training with him. And hey, I really appreciate those guys bringing me in, especially when they didn't have to.
Well,
Um,
at a pivotal point in your life, it sounds like.
yeah, yeah. So we stayed up. I was up there for about a year, maybe a little less than a year. And I think like the only reason why I left, not the only reason, there's a couple reasons, but one, I had somebody say to me, and it kind of hit me hard, was like, if you're gonna make this team, you're gonna probably have to beat him. And and they're like, to be completely honest, you're probably gonna have to get away from him to beat him. It's good that you got in there and got to wrestle with him because he's human, you know, and he makes mistakes. But you're gonna have to get away and get to a different camp. And that opportunity came when Tom Ryan called me. And when Rob Cole took the job at Stanford, it kind of gave me that opportunity, that out.
Sure.
And it was like I was obligated. It's like I in my opinion, is like I wasn't necessarily obligated to Coach Gray, but Coach Gray was great. Don't get me wrong. I love that guy. That
I
guy
get
is
it, but
awesome.
he but
That guy,
yeah.
like I can't explain him. He's just great, right?
Those
Um,
kids all love him,
yeah.
and, like,
They,
he's
they
great at building relationships and obviously a super technical guy.
oh yeah. And he's like super calm in the corner, everything like that. He's awesome. And that was the only one that was kind of really, really tough to like say, hey, I'm moving on to Ohio RTC. But the opportunity came to work at Ohio, and I was like, well, this is a good step. It's a Big Ten room. I've always wanted to work in a Big Ten room. My wife to be here in
We're gonna
less
get to
than
that. We're getting to that.
less than a couple weeks. Um, she was super jazzed. I don't think she didn't vibe with Ithaca so much. She liked it, but we didn't have any like we were kind of pretty far from our family still. We were just as far as New York in the middle of nowhere, in my opinion. And that's the way
Okay.
she kind of put me that way. So when we went to Ohio, it's like we have some friends in Ohio. Our families aren't too far away, and
She's
it
a
was just
PA
like
girl as well?
what?
She's also a Pennsylvania girl?
Yep, Penn Hills. Yep.
Alright, cool.
So,
So, I'm not gonna get into the technical side of it, but I think it's probably interesting that you and Yanni rolled, right? Like, so now,
oh
like
yeah, we rolled a lot. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So that'll make the final X match a little more interesting. Um, I've been talking to Jaggers and Steber and Tom about another event, and I've had Jaggers on the show once or twice.
Hmm.
We talked a little bit about this off the air, but not much. So those guys are obviously super accomplished guys. Jaggers couple-time national champ, and really kind of doing it when he wasn't seated like he was supposed to be. Obviously, Logan, four-time national champ and world champ, and RTC coach now and all that stuff. And both those guys wrestled at weights, right around where you're wrestling now,
Yeah,
41, 49, that sort of thing. And you obviously have like Mendez and, Buzaka's coming in the room, and then just the regular college guys are in the room.
yeah,
And I know the Ohio RTC doesn't lack in funding to bring in good training partners for you. So, kind of tell me what it's like to be coached by Logan and Jay and Tom and those guys, and like because you've obviously had a lot of people be able to pour themselves into you. So I think you're like a sort of a collection of the best minds, so to speak.
yeah. I mean, so if I'm putting into like a family perspective, it's like Tom's the dad, um, and Jay and Logan are my two older brothers. And
Okay, I
they
like
literally
that.
could be. They literally could be.
Yeah.
Like Logan's only like a year and a half older or so. Jay's little going closing in on 40, I think. I don't know. I don't want to specify his age.
Put that man out on blast on the streets.
But like it's just they're competitive. They know the sport, and you don't want to let them down. That's the thing. It's like the way there's just something about it. It's like once you get that little close bond, and plus it's like they're close in age, and you're not looking at them as like I wrestled Logan, and it's like and as much as like I don't want to look at him as competition, he's trying to help me as much as possible, and it's really good for me because he's been there, he's done that, and um he he just like you don't want to let him down. Plus he's kind of like he's not necessarily he's my peer too, so it's like, man, I want to be just as good as you, even though
Yeah.
it's like I want to win a world title. I want to be the guy. And so it's like almost like earn their respect in some way, in some sense, to be like to earn that right to be in the room and like and that's what I'm using. That's what I'm using as a little bit of fuel to my fire. It's like I haven't done what they done. So I want to do something that they haven't done. and
That's cool. Yeah.
that pushes me. So,
It seems like those guys from, like I said, I talked to Jaggers more than Stever, but they both seem this really nice combination of very humble yet extremely competitive.
oh yeah,
Like don't let the smooth taste fool you. Like we're here for it. Just because we're being nice doesn't mean we're not here to, not do some gangster stuff, so to speak.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
we're here for all of it. So do you spar with those guys? Like maybe not go live, but like, they give you good feels and positions and things like
So
that?
I haven't rolled with Jay in a while, but like I'm sure this next week, if he hears this, he'll was like, we're going, But I roll with Logan still a lot. He still goes. It just depends how his body's feeling.
Sure.
But he'll get on top of me and try to rough me up pretty good. Like he's a hammer on top still.
Yeah,
And
he
then
wasn't bad at top wrestling in
no, he
college or
wasn't. No,
internationally.
no. So um but then, man, it's just like a room full of killers, though. Like everybody in that room is a state champ of some sort or have done something. And I work from 125 all the way to 165, and everybody wants to give you your best. They
Yeah,
want to get the takedown on you. They want to take down the old guy that's done it and been there and is like they're like, I gotta take down on Evan today. And I love that because it
yeah,
helps me. Um like and I roll with Sammy a lot too, Sammy Sasso.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I told the story's not about me, but I told you about a quick jujitsu story and how my
Yeah.
dad was like, those guys they were all part of your success, and you have to go
Mhm.
back after you've done something and share that with them. And yeah, I think that mindset's important. So you're in the second final X for people that don't know. They just announced it. I think we're
Yeah.
recording this on Tuesday. They announced it on Monday, which matches were, well, they already said which ones were where, but like, obviously the fill in the blanks on the matchups now. So it's in New York, which is actually sort of better for both you and Yanni, than being in Stillwater.
Yeah.
Uh, so you also have a few more days to prepare,
Yeah. Yeah.
than the first one. Uh, how much of this is just you sharpening your own saw, and how much of this is working on specific things that you know that your opponent likes to do?
Probably a little bit of both, to be completely honest. It's just making sure I'm mentally focused about just getting there. It's like if I go in and like I'm just thinking about my next practice, I'm gonna go in and I'm probably gonna wrestle um Sasso. And like he's gonna be looking to beat the crap out of me. I'm looking to beat the crap out of him, and that's the way it's gonna be. And it's like as long as I stay like that mentally, like just stay on the path, stay on the path. Don't think about anything else. Just stay on the path. I think I showed you that little video when we're at
Yes,
the bar.
tell that story.
So this guy was like was explaining the human brain can't comprehend negativity. So and what he means by that is like, so it's like, don't think of the elephant. What you thought about the elephant. And then he goes into this analogy of like, okay, what about the skier that's going down the hill and he's going through the forest and he sees, if he says, don't hit a tree, don't hit a tree, don't hit a tree, he's going to hit a tree. Versus if he's thinking about the snow in the path, always thinking about the snow in the path. So what it pretty much came down to is don't think about the obstacle, think about where you're going. And
Think about the journey.
the journey and the perception of that and how you're thinking about the the process. So you're not so much worried about the obstacle. So my obstacle is Yanni. I'm not really worried about that. So that's the way I should be approaching my training. It's like I'm not worried about necessarily what he's going to do. I'm worried about what I'm going to do. And I think somebody also said, like I remember within the last couple of days, somebody even said it's like, don't forget you still have to be good about what you do. You don't have to train for them. You train yourself. You train
Yeah.
what you're good at and make sure those are sharp. Yes, this other stuff we might have to do a little bit and make sure we cover that, but you still have to make sure your own tools are sharp. So
Yeah, like MMA is a real good example of that because it's almost like three distinct sports, right? And like
mhm,
you see, like wrestling, striking, and jujitsu, and like you see a lot of wrestlers that were really good wrestlers coming out. Like if you
yeah,
went in over in MMA right now, you'd be a top flight wrestler for sure. You
yeah,
already are, but even more so. And then they spend all their time, especially working on their hands, because they wanted to get these highlight reels and bonuses, and they stop wrestling. So the advantage they had
starts
lessens.
diminishing. Yeah,
And then if they do, like, they wrestle with MMA guys, you're like, "That's not wrestling." Like, go back to the Ohio State room. That's
Mhm.
wrestling. Like, go back
Yep.
and go with the people, and if you get taken down, you don't pull guard, you get up, those kind of things. And, but you showed me the video and of the skier that, just the concept of that, and I love that because like, somebody like, the PGA tournament ended yesterday,
Yep.
or Sunday on the drive home, and like, that might be one of the most mental sports because, like, you're only in your own head. No one's allowed to talk or say anything. It's the opposite of wrestling. And it's like, hey, there's a lake on the left. There's a lake on the left. There's a lake on the left. If that's what you're thinking, your ball's probably going in the lake.
Yeah.
And if you're like, hey, I'm just going to hit it on the right side of the green and I have this shot, I've done this shot 1,000 times, that's probably more likely
Probably
to
gonna
happen.
do it.
Yeah.
Look, like, in a sense, you wanna make things as normal as possible, um, without like, don't make it bigger than it is. It's like this Final X stuff, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna make the world team, but it's just 2 matches. It's just
Yeah.
2 matches.
Yeah.
You only it's like you just gotta win 2 matches, so and then you even break that down. Okay, well, that means I probably need to win, like, at least in my instance, how I wrestle, it's like, at least gotta win 1 period by a lot of points, so,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's like I put up 1, 2 well, even with the Nick Lee one, I put up, 7 points in the 2nd period. Like, you gotta win a period somewhere, you can't lose 2 periods,
You're going to
so
have to win 2 periods, like one in each match if you're going to
yeah,
win a period.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I
Sure.
mean, but then
Yeah.
you go down, you go back, and it's like, okay, so even if you're down, you just go back to, "I gotta get the next point. Just win the next point. Win the next point. Win the next point."
I think it's almost also forgiving yourself. Like it'd be crazy. I think some people think like, okay, like I'm gonna wrestle perfect and I'm gonna shut this person out, right? And then as soon as that doesn't happen, their mind is off those tracks. Like, oh, whoa, it's already failed. It's like that doesn't need to be the goal. The goal needs to be at the end. I get my hand raised. You
Yes,
know?
absolutely, and man, I mean, this is another conversation I had. It's like trying to be perfect. It's like if you go and try to be perfect and you screw something up in your diet and you go or you do something you shouldn't have done, that will probably mentally eat at you if you were trying to be perfect, versus, yeah, I went out and it's like, yeah, I'm not afraid to say I had a beer after the match, after that tournament, maybe a few, it's
Yeah,
like, I'm not, I, it, it- it's like, I don't necessarily like, yes, I sacrificed a lot already, but it's like, I also want to be human. I'm
yeah,
like, I think some wrestlers, we forget sometimes as wrestlers, we forget that because we want to be so damn good, so dominant, so this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you got to remember, it's like, we are, just people trying to live a normal life at some aspect, but, and then the other aspect of the other side of that coin is like, no, I don't want to be normal. I want to be the best. I want to be this and that, blah, blah, blah. But if you let that control everything, the moment that you F up something, it could crumble your empire of thought.
that's a really good way to put it. Like I like that a lot because, like like one of the I always try to get like one saying. Like I like the "He dies, I rise." Like I like that a lot. I wrote that down. But the other thing,
Yeah.
like you're saying, is like nobody bats 1,000 at everything in life, right? So, like, if you're doing keto and you go eat a bowl of ice cream, that doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you need to go burn off those carbs so you can get back to ketosis.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world. It's a setback, but it doesn't need to be. You define how big of a setback that is. Like if
Yeah.
you now
Well,
start eating a bucket
you
of
don't
ice cream,
even you don't even need to even see it as a setback. It's more or less like you can say people have vices, and like if this particular thing happens, okay, still you got to push it out of your mind and then you're gonna have to work a little harder, in the beginning. It's like same way with me in weight cutting or trying to make weight. It's like if you put it in your body, you better get it out of your body, kind
yeah,
of deal. Um, like that's pretty much it.
yeah.
So
So, I just met you, but, so I'm obviously not on the wedding list, but I'm
right.
gonna give you a free wedding gift. Describe when you're getting married, who you're getting married to,
So
where you're registered.
oh, I'm right. Oh man, I need to know that. Hey mom, like my mom's upset. Do you have do you have an invite here on the refrigerator?
Wait,
Um,
so you're getting married the Saturday after Final X, correct?
yes,
And
correct.
what is your bride-to-be's name?
Carly, her name's Carly
Carly.
Rustano. She's from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. She grew up in Penn Hills. And here's the crazy thing. We met in New York City.
There you go.
We met in New York City. I remember we met like her work was only a couple blocks away from where I lived, and we met and we hit it off and everything like that. And
Registered at.
Shout
uh,
out to mom.
shout out to mom. She got me the invite right here. Is there a I know I have a website.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So listen, people, if they want to know, the Amazon gift cards are always good, right? Is
Yeah,
that
Amazon
safe?
gift cards are always good. I'll like if you hey when you I'll send you the link and you put it up on the
When we send this out, you retweet it and you add your link and your registry. Okay.
well the thing is I don't have a Twitter.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, then you'll have to have the boys up there in Ohio put that out for you.
All right. But we're having it at a farm and everything like that. We got I got a bunch of wrestlers coming. Not a bunch, but enough. A bunch of my boys, you know, and then
that's awesome.
So, yeah.
And so I mean you got to get so you ideally are going to have 2 reasons to celebrate in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
sure. You know, I'm gonna celebrate and then have to celebrate again pretty hard. And then where are we going? We're going to Greece for our honeymoon. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, like Carla Esparza won, and then she wore her UFC belt to her wedding the next weekend. So you know, whatever they give out at Final X, maybe you're rocking that. And
oh yeah, for sure. You know, it's gonna be special. It's gonna be special regardless. I mean, oh yeah, maybe my twin brother's my best man. So yeah.
There you go. There you go. All right. I got to ask, did you guys ever cheat and one guy made wait for the other guy? Did that ever happen?
One time.
Really?
So you know how big, like this is back in like 2010, 9, whatever. It was NHSCA duels or something. And I just made weight and he was still over and he was the weight class like above me. So I took off the band, circled back around, went back into line, changed my singlet, and then like they wrote the number on the arm. So like I'm like my brother's like get over here and scrubbed it off and it's like get back in there. I need to because he was like I can't do this anymore. And so I went back in, you know, and I was like, what? We look the same, and there's hundreds of kids there. They don't, and so they couldn't tell. So I went in, I stepped on the scale. And I was still underweight even after drinking 2 Gatorades. So I'm like, sweet, we're good. He's like, Rob, you're good to go. He's like, yes. So
that people should understand that I always have a set of questions that I'm ready with. You and me talked about this, the importance of active listening. That just popped up. That's gold. So,
yeah. But you know, it's like we've only done that. We only did that once.
Okay.
I will admit to. So
I'll admit to. There's more. The next time I see you, we'll have more than 1 beer, and I'll get the rest of it. So.
Okay.
Hey, man, I really enjoyed lunch. Shout out to Ty Liddick for joining us. Shout out to Kyle Martin, one of the good guys in Pennsylvania and USA Wrestling. Great stories about him. Really appreciated your time then and today, sharing it with all the people that watch and listen. And best of luck. I know there will not be a low scoring match in all likelihood. So that would be exciting for the fans.
I make the waters muddy. So
I like that. All right, man. Best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
For Evan, I'm David. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Sounds good. Later.